They said you were the best in the Parsec.
Welcome to
Parsec Passion, a podcast about Star Wars Disney Plus TV shows. This week we're talking about The Mandalorian Season 3, Episode 1, The Apostate.
AKA the Redeem Team, AKA Mando needs a cult deprogrammer.
My name's Bubba, and with me as always is the low magistrate, Catfish. Catfish, we're back. It has officially been over 2 years since we said goodbye to Grogu and Mando. Are you glad to be back?
I am so glad to be back. I'm sorry what happened to you in the meantime. If people don't know, basically all you need to do is look at IG-11, and that's pretty much what's happened to Bubba in the preceding 2 years. He is now just a complete mess.
Okay, Catfish. There'll be no editing already. Let's not make anybody wait. Chapter 17, The Apostate. What's your rating out of 10 for this first episode of Season 3?
Bubba, this is going to be a little high because it's back, baby. We're so glad to see it. We're glad to see Mando. We're glad to see Grogu. All the people are back. Greef is back. It's exciting. We're going to more than 2 planets. That's could be a first. I'm going to give this 9.5 out of 10 of what I like to call double Bs.
Wait, double Bs?
Yeah, bummed Bo-Katans. I mean, geez, the Emperor of Jack Squat is what she is. She's lounging on the throne with no one to bring her grapes.
Bo-Katan, I'm gonna go look for the mine water. That's fine. I'll sit in this empty house. It's more fun. Do you want like a TV or an iPhone to keep you interested, Bo-Katan? Nah, it's fine.
I thought maybe she might say, "Could you help me get out of this position? I thought it was really cool, but now I'm stuck here."
Catfish, that is almost 10 out of 10. That's incredible.
Almost 10. When almost did you? So many things to talk about. Yep.
When did you know? Okay, I'm so glad to be back. This is a 10 out of 10. How quick into the episode?
Holy cow. You know what? I was having a great time. There's so many moments. I mean, when Grogu cuddles up with Mando, so good. I mean, even starting off, I love it. Mando's like, "I saved your ass," and Horn Helmet is like, "I don't care. You still ain't jack squat. You're nothing. You're lower than nothing." I mean, just so good. Bubba, by the way, just to show you I'm representing, I'm wearing my Empire Strips Back t-shirt today. The amazing show I went to go see. Burlesque, Star Wars style. If you ever see it in your neighborhood, run, don't walk. Awesome dancing, awesome music, funny bits. I'd take anybody over 13.
Nephew Paul, occasional guest here on the Parsec Passion podcast. He's going to be very excited about that.
I suggested that might bring Paul right into manhood. Forget what I have to say about this rating, and forget what you have to say. So let's move. No, wait, hold on. Okay, all right. Let's hear. What was your rating for Cult of the Damned?
Catfish. Mm-hmm. I gave this first episode of Season 3 only, and it's ridiculous to say, 8 out of 10 double Ps.
Boo. Why so low, Bubba?
Well, you don't care why I say double Ps? You're not interested?
Oh, sorry, double Ps. I'm so scandalized by your low rating. I couldn't even get to the double Ps. Please tell me what the double Ps are.
It's pointless podcast. Here we are, Catfish. We are like your buddies, listeners. We're talking to you after the show. We're talking about, what did we like? Why was it good? Mm-hmm. Why could it do better? Where do you think the story's going to go? How do you think the production went? We talk about all these things, which are fun to talk about. Mm-hmm. And then you watch the episode and you're like, how can I describe the joy of one adorable puppet hugging another adorable puppet who doesn't want to be hugged? Like
Oh my
literally
God.
everything Grogu does is gold. I need to go to the thesaurus to find new words for adorable, precious, perfect, cute, hilarious. Those moments are so great. Literally, Mando could be reading the phone book with his helmet on, which I know you don't like, but they get Grogu going, and who cares, man? This is perfect. This is wonderful to be back. I'm so excited.
It's so good. This just shows you why they gave up halfway through Boba Fett and just brought in the Mandalorian again.
Well, okay, hold on, Catfish.
Yeah.
So we're going to talk about some of these things later, but listeners, if you only download and listen to the Parsec Passion podcast during Mandalorian seasons, we covered the Book of Boba Fett, we covered Obi-Wan Kenobi, and we covered Andor. And so we both were very, very high on Andor, and they're characters who are like evil, hilarious, conflicted characters. And I'm just thinking, if you put them in a scene with Grogu, suddenly you'd like them. Like imagine Cyril Karn when he's trapped at home and in his box that his mom keeps trying to take a peek in. What if Grogu was in his box? You would be like, Cyril's kind of a creepy stalker and a fascist, but he really does love Grogu. Like, can you imagine
Not
Grogu
to mention
and
a
Cyril?
kidnapper.
Right.
Sure.
Right,
Unlawful imprisonment of Grogu.
How about what does Cyril want on the show Andor? Slight spoilers for the show Andor, everybody. He one of the many things he wants is to, get in good with Dedra. If he was stalking outside her workplace, but also, she's like, "What are you doing here?" He's like, "Oh, I'm just walking my pet Grogu." How would Dedra react to Grogu? I mean, this would be love. This would
What
be
if
ridiculous.
he just held Grogu above his head and Grogu sang the song?
Yeah, say anything, but with Grogu instead of a boombox. It would work. This is incredible. And I'm saying it. I'm saying it, I went 8 out of 10, and I almost laughed. I saw the episode description. The Mandalorian begins an important journey. You know what? Whatever. Get to Grogu. Get to Baby Yoda, people. Like, why even have a description? Just put more Baby Yoda. We're there for it. We're excited.
I love it. I love it.
Listeners, you've heard what we think. We want to know what you think. Like I just said a second ago, these after show podcasts, it's like we're a group talking about a show, talking about all the fun things, all the things that could do better, all the things we love. We're just rapping after the show. We want you to be a part of it. The way you do that, if you're on YouTube, go down in the comments. Tell us what you think Cyril could use Grogu for the force of love of Dedra or anything else. Tell us what you're rating, or you can reach us on social media at WPHQ on Twitter, Instagram, Hive, Facebook.com/WPHQ. We are there to talk to you. Now, before we get into this episode, Catfish, it has been a while, and in these days leading up to the season 3 premiere, Jon Favreau, the creator of The Mandalorian, has been out there talking. So let's just talk through it before we get back to, oh man, Grogu and Mando are the best. Favreau said that he's written season 4 already. It's already written. It's going to go into production this October, which if you're paying attention, that means we won't see Mandalorian season 4 for another 2 years, meaning it won't be here a year from now. It'll be, maybe if we're lucky in December of 2024. He's written season 4, but there's no plans for The Mandalorian to end at season 4. Jon Favreau said, in fact, quote, Mandalorian season 3 is a middle chapter of a much larger story. It's not like there's a finale we're building to that I have in mind. Quite the contrary. I love for these stories to go on and on. How do you feel about that, Catfish? Do you feel like that there is a season limit? How long should The Mandalorian go on? What do you think?
Well, I mean, it all depends on, what you want out of the show. Like you just said, just give me more Grogu and I don't care what happens. We got Grogu putting blocks together, trying to spell happy birthday, whatever you want, Grogu blowing out candles. And yet, you only gave this episode 8 out of 10. Mm-hmm. So I think it's something we want to talk about a little bit later. It's, we've got like a overarching tasks that Mando has had to do. So we'd have to kind of keep that up. I think you've got to keep that up. And I think as far as the business side of it goes, we'll see how this shakes out. There's a lot of streaming shakeup. There's shake up with Disney. That will probably affect shows going forward. I know for sure it's going to affect the Marvel shows. We'll see how it affects the Star Wars shows. I mean, besides The Mandalorian, there were a whole bunch of other shows that were rumored to take place. One got booted simply because Cara Dune decided to join the Special Forces. And that show got canceled for another way, but I wonder if they're going to slow these down a little bit.
Well, you're absolutely correct, Catfish. I want to jump on this. Marvel has so many shows. Marvel on Disney Plus has so many shows in production. And the shows that they've currently started filming, it's not that they're not going to finish them. It's that they're like, hold your horses. We're not going to release them as often. And they're going to try to make Disney Plus profitable. Up until this point, it was all about growth, 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 growth. Now it's about, can we make it profitable? And that means on 1 year, maybe not spending so much money on all these various productions. So good point.
Yeah, so we'll see how much more we have. I guess, there was scuttlebutt last year that a certain person was tired of being under the mask. That doesn't seem to have affected our boy's ability to do other work. On the contrary, I'm guessing for the most part, he's just doing voice work. So for him, that is pretty easy and a good gig. We've got a new member of the EP team. Rick Famuyiwa directed The Mandalorian, the premiere and the final 2 episodes of season 3. And we've got a new member of the music team.
That's right. Could you tell, now Rick Famuyiwa has been directing episodes of The Mandalorian in season 1 and season 2. Can you tell when it's his episode versus somebody else, or is the directing style consistent? I think it's pretty consistent. He did direct one of my favorite episodes, and that's the second episode of season 1, where Mando has to attack the Jawas, and then he gets into the fight with the Mudhorn. I love that episode that Rick did. But I think it's, in my opinion, it's a very consistent directed show, and I don't know notice those flourishes quite so much.
No, I mean, I just think when we had cartoon Bane, I can't remember his name. That one was a kind of a very Western one, so that one kind of stylistically, I think it was intentionally a little bit more stylish just because of the kind of the showdown feel of that episode. But I agree. These feel pretty the same. There's no, the shots don't usually draw attention to themselves. There's no way that it's, you're not like shooting through holes of things to see cool stuff. It's just kind of, propulsive forward action.
As far as the music, because the show opened with no score, but just the sound of the armorer beating on the tools and the Beskar, when the episode ended, I couldn't have told you this was a new person doing the score of the episode as opposed to our usual person. But we do have later on in this podcast our wonderful podcast partner, Double M Matt Murdock, who's going to do his musical analysis and talk about it. I'm excited.
Yeah, that is very exciting. But you know what else I'm excited to talk about, Bubba?
Let's hear it.
This episode.
All right, well, let's get to it. Catfish, for people who have been listening to all our podcasts, you have very much been helmet off. And yet we begin this episode, not even with the Mandalorian, but the queen of helmet on, the armorer. She is going to town, making some new armor, and she's even got her own drum section. She's got Neil Peart back there pounding it out. Any thoughts about this cult, at which you are correct? This is a very fundamentalist faith, for lack of a better word. Any thoughts about how this opened up with our crazy cult and somebody getting baptized in this dangerous lake?
I mean, I have so many thoughts. First of all, I mean, she's clearly the one making the rules, right? Because no one else gets a horned helmet. Her helmet is horned. Everybody else has the same kind of looking helmet. And she's like, you know what, guys? I'm the cult leader.
Yeah.
I get whatever I want, but I'm going to tell you all the other rules.
Oh boy. Well, how about this? This is the first thing I thought in this opening scene is they are, once again, I call it a baptism. They're putting this new helmet on this kid, and it looks like a snug fit. And I'm thinking, do they do a new helmet? This kid's still growing, do you are you trying to stunt his head growth, his skull? Like, what's going on here, man?
That is exactly what I thought. I mean, anybody somebody who has kids, it's like every few months you got to get them new sneakers. I mean, they got to go through this whole process every few months. I mean, do they have to do this ceremony every time? No. This is what I would say, Bubba. I would say, all right, kid, you're now Mandalorian. Here's your Mandalorian themed gator mask. One of the gator. And you come back when your head is done growing. And Barry Bonds, no, we cannot redo your helmet. We made you a helmet when you were full grown. You can't get a new helmet. So I am hashtag Team Gator, Team Neck Gator.
Okay, let's point out you're Gator, Gaitor, not Gator like the Lake Placid alligator that attacks them later
Gator,
on.
Gaiter. Now, listen, here's the other thing she says. From this moment, helmet on.
Oh, yeah.
And now, Bubba.
Well, he doesn't, the young foundling who is becoming part of the Armorer's team, he doesn't get to say it because of this attack by the monster. But yeah, that's the rule. That's what she's saying.
So, Bubba, work with me here because I was always team helmet off.
Right.
Okay. And then I understood team helmet on. But the way she says it makes it seem to me that she says you would never take your helmet off.
No,
okay? So you don't take it off at night. You don't take it off to eat. You don't take it off to wash. You don't take it off when you sleep. I mean, at a certain point, even our old buddy, the leader of the Helmet On Brigade, Patman 23, would have to agree that this becomes ridiculous.
Well,
come on.
There may be more of this kind of ritual and this saying. Once again, it got cut off by the alligator monster. But in the first season, the way it was explained is that you could take your helmet off as long as you were by yourself. No living thing saw you. So,
right, but what happens if you were you thought you were alone and then somebody busts in the room and then they see you? Are you excommunicated then?
Yes, caution, an ounce of prevention saves the cult.
My God, I can't even imagine how bad it smells under there.
If you've been paying attention, in the very first episode of The Mandalorian Season 1, Episode 1, his ship gets attacked. Out of the ice bursts this monster, which bites on the Razor Crest, and it's a big monster attacking him. And then in Season 2, Episode 1, we had the Krayt Dragon, which was attacking on Tatooine, and he had to fight it. Season 3, Episode 1, we get another big monster. What did you think of this monster? Any thoughts about this alligator who hates cults?
I mean, once again, I am hashtag Team Gator, Team Alligator this time. Right. Although this seems more like a kaiju than a gator. I mean, the water also, Bubba, this brings us back to one of those famous Game of Thrones water scenes we questioned, because the water must really drop off quick for this huge thing to have been hidden, and then 100 yards later, he comes out of the water. I mean, this water must drop off deep.
Well, hold on. That could be because you are assuming that the armorer and the cult didn't want it to show up. This is the test of the new foundling to see if he'll really keep his helmet on. They put everybody in the water, and if he doesn't keep his helmet on, he takes it off, tries to throw it at the monster, the thing gets fed.
That's really good. This also seems like a really good way to cull the rest of the Mandalorian herd.
Right. Hey, you didn't wear your helmet the other day. Come out with me to the lake. What did you think of this action beat, which ends, of course, there are all these Mandalorians. They have all their armor and weapons, but what's it going to take? It's going to take PETA's least favorite Mando. It's the animal-killing Din Djarin showing up in his new spaceship. What do you think?
I think this is how the mother flipping helmet off takes care of business, because these guys were about to get slaughtered. Nothing was working. Even the double M in this scene.
Wait, the double M.
Yeah, the muscular Mandalorian, one who they had to do like 50% more Beskar for because he's been lifting so much. Even he would like push the kid out of the way. He was about to get crunched.
Yeah, but Mando comes through. After he saves the day, he lands his ship, and then of course the perfect button to the scene. Who pops his head up but Grogu? I'm telling you, Grogu is gold, baby. Gold. Now
he is the best.
Now there is, maybe it was a cut scene, but the armorer, nobody said, "Oh, thank you, Mando, you saved us. Oh, thanks." No. It's immediately, "Oh yeah, you're the jagoff who took off his helmet, huh?" By his own choice, right? It wasn't forced off. Like literally, you did it of your own free will. Nice work, Mando.
Yeah, right. And then. Grogu, at this point, it's funny. He turns to Mando and gives him a look and kind of gurgles. And the translation, I looked into my Yoda dictionary, and the translation was roughly, "This lady don't know how to say thank you."
We learned this in the Book of Boba Fett. It's just reinforced for everybody because it's been a year since the Book of Boba Fett. Hey, you've got to clean yourself. You can't clean yourself in the lake outside the cave. No, you've got to go to the living waters and in the mines of Mandalore. And Din's like,
even if those are even if it's completely destroyed, well, that's just too bad for you, Mando.
Right, the living / dead waters, whatever it's going to be. Now, Mando has this like red crystal. He's like, look, the surface has been crystallized by fusion rays, which I'm going to be doing some fusion rays to my face at my next, facial. So to clean out these pores. But it's still like, why not just do it, Mando? You know what you need to do. Well, later on, we find out he's like, well, I need a droid to kind of test it, tell me all this stuff is safe and search it out. But there's also a part of me like, Mando, you do have a lot of quests. You know, in this episode, you're going to say, hey, get the memory chip for the IG droid, defeat the pirates, get everybody together, go to the living waters. It's like, this is a video game with a lot of quests I've got to do, man.
No, well, at least it's finally Mando doing quests for something that he wants rather than do this thing for me.
Right. Oh, hey, you need $1? Well, I'll happily give you $1 if you help me defeat this army of baddies. So Mando leaves the armor and the cult behind. He's like, okay, I understand what he's got to do. They travel through hyperspace, and this is just a beautiful scene of Grogu looking at hyperspace out his little bubble. He sees some space whales hidden in hyperspace, and these are Purgles, which are creatures which were first shown on the animated Star Wars Rebels show, and most likely the fact they're showing them here we'll either see something with them later on in season 3, or they're setting up something which is going to happen in the next Disney Plus show, Ahsoka. But anyway, this is such a cute scene. And then we find out that Grogu can go from his bubble and then sneak into his papa's lap while he's flying. This is incredible, huh?
So he needed comfort because poor little Grogu's eyes were bigger than his stomach because those whales looked delicious and he couldn't get at them. He's like, give me anything amphibian, I am in.
I've been eating Frog Lady's eggs. I'd have to eat like 5,000 of them to get one of these. Yum.
Yeah, no, but he's ready. He's ready to give it a shot.
Back on Navarro, a planet that's been in all 3 seasons now, there's an air traffic control and a customs voice. Please state the purpose for your visit.
Love it.
Tourist droids, hey, check out the warm springs we've got here. Look at all these aliens. Now, Catfish, we had this debate. With some of our loyal listeners here on the podcast about Andor, which was once again a great show. I don't mean to say anything negative about Andor, but we did talk about Andor doesn't seem to have aliens like a lot of other Star Wars shows do. And so I thought, look at all these aliens here on Navarro. Catfish is going to hate it.
No. You know what? I actually dig it for this show because this
Okay.
is more of a kind of the playful, younger show and/or kind of more serious. I really thought the person who was going to hate it the most would be our good old friend Cooter, who hates to see beings of all kinds, sexes, and races living together in peace, while Cara Dune is exiled to a planet full of white people.
Yeah, it is.
Cooter.
Okay, now listen. So we so many callbacks. We had the chef droid who was in Attack of the Clones, but he's really known for Boba Fett in Jabba's palace, where Boba had to fight the chef droid with all those knives and stuff before. Listen, this place, it's like, hey, visit. This is the real world. They've got buskers out. Give us some money. And of course, what do we hear next? Mando. That's High Magistrate Greef Karga to you. Listen, I've been talking all this praise about Grogu and Baby Yoda, but even Greef Karga I've come to love. After 2 years, it's like, all right, buddy, hey, it's Greef, let's roll. How do you think about our new High Magistrate and the money to be made on Navarro?
I love it. I mean, the Mando's like, this place has changed. We see it. It's happy. There's everybody running around. Greef's like, I got a sweet piece of land for you right by the hot springs, really pumping it up. But Bubba, I was extremely suspicious.
Oh, no.
Because I thought either Greef is a realtor for this area, or he wants Mando to stick around for something that he needs him for.
Oh, here we go. The trade always has to happen.
But Bubba, I thought
if
he settled down there in this town that's sort of bustling and it's still growing, and this show became like Deadwood, who would be the Al Swearingen from the show?
Oh, I think it'd be Greef. I mean, there aren't many choices, but I think it'd be Greef. Don't you?
Oh man, it would be the best though.
And Din Djarin, right. Grogu's first words is the CSers from Deadwood. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Now, speaking of Grogu,
young girl, come over here, you will.
But hold on. Speaking of Grogu, this is hard to imagine, but the last time Greef was on the show, we didn't know Baby Yoda's real name. And so it's his name is Grogu. Come again? No, his name's Grogu. Greef, if you say so. Love it. Oh, my God.
The one thing that is funny here, to me a little bit, is Greef seems kind of unconcerned so much with Grogu, but Greef knows that Grogu is powerful. You know what I mean? He almost doesn't. He's like, whatever. Okay, yeah, Grogu's here. That guy, whatever. So it's kind of funny to me a little bit. The other thing that's funny is,
I want to pause for a second, Catfish, because you're right. Greef is the one who's like, oh, do the magic hand thing, Grogu. He's the one who knows that the remaining Imperials were trying to get it, and that's how this whole show got started. So you're right. The fact that it's now like, oh, hey, there's the cute little kid. But let's talk serious things, Mando. You're exactly right.
What I do like is that Greef, now that he's High Magistrate, has declared that there will only be orange M&Ms in his office.
Reese's Pieces, right? Yeah.
Luckily, Grogu, not picky.
No, he's very picky. Like 1, 2, 3, 88, 89, 220. Like he's not picky at all. He picks one and then another, then another. And we can't. This show is got a pace, which maybe is a bit negative at times. I think in this episode. So why did I only go 8 out of 10? At times I think, I could hang out here a bit more, but no, we got to cut this off quick so we can get to a plot point. The pirates are here. Vane the pirate is here, and he's here because Pirate King Goran Shard has got to get his cut. This is a fun way and probably a natural way to have a story about, hey, this used to be, Navarro used to really be a rough, the equivalent of a rough city in a Western, and now it's become a settled city in a Western. And so that is a fun way to, kind of take the story to a natural place. But like I said, the show's pace almost was a bit too quick sometimes. I'm like, hey, I like Mando and Greef Karga together, but whoops, no, we got to get to this new thing.
That is true. The pirates are like, we're going to drink here. I don't know how many times Greef needs to tell them there's not going to be any alcohol in the school, you idiots.
But this school used to be a bar.
Yeah, right. We're going to make it a bar again. All right, go ahead and drink if you want, I guess. I mean, I got drinks back in my office and orange M&Ms. Shit, you don't got to be like that.
Right. But do you have to drink in this dump? Come to my swag new office, man.
What is really cool here is they show a Mando just like coolly and calmly leans against a tree. He's like, I'm ready. This is it. It's so good. But they missed a chance here, Bubba. You know, we're all about the rule of threes, right? And up to this point, Greef has corrected people twice. Someone calls him magistrate, and he says, hi, magistrate. So right here, Mando's leaning against a tree, and he says, is there a problem, magistrate? And Greef just says, no problem. Why did Greef say, hi, magistrate? I mean, keep some commitment to the bit here.
Hell yeah. Now, these pirates, sounds like you went soft. Sounds like you went soft. And, of course, here we go, Catfish. There was one thing you can't do to Greef. You can't call Greef soft. Oh, no. And he'll show you that underneath these beautiful robes, maybe a bit like Navarro, underneath this beautiful city, there's still some muscle, and it's my blaster. Hell yeah.
But you know what I love here, Bubba, is if you watch it, it's funny because when you look at Greef after he brushes aside the jacket, there's background actors behind him running like there's something going on. And then they flash something away, and then they flash back, and other people are just enjoying the weekly farmers market that are going on back there, like nothing is going on. So I was like, they must have taken this shot from earlier and put it in here, because some people know what's going on, and others are like, I don't know about this orange. It seems a little soft.
Well, one thing that's very true of all these Disney Plus shows, these wonderful shows aimed for kids, whether it's Andor, whether it's Book of Boba Fett, whether it's Mandalorian, very first episode, you got to kill some suckers. I thought we were in for Disney level violence when Greef blows the guy's blaster away. I'm like, oh, okay, this is Disney. After a bit of lip, Mando wastes all those guys. He kills all of them. Welcome to violence, kids.
I love it. He does it in about 2 seconds flat. He does it flat. I mean, it's so good. And then
here we go.
This is where the other shoe drops. He wants Mando to hang out as his marshal. There's a lot of trade coming in. Everything looks happy, but I could use somebody who could kill 5 people in 2 seconds flat without a second thought. But Mando's like, but what about Marshal Dune?
Yeah, what about her?
She's in the special forces. They're so special that they also don't take off their hoods. I mean, their masks.
They never put the mask on in COVID. In space flu, whatever.
I mean, it's more like a hood than a mask, but there you go.
All right, hold on, Catfish. Let's have a mini debate right here.
Got it.
You are Mando. You are desperately trying to get back in your cult, but you've had this offer a couple times. In season 1, there was the beautiful lady in the village that you protected. It was like, hey, if you want to stay here and be part of our tribe, you could. And that seemed like it would have been a good deal. I love to laugh at Greef and his boisterousness, but don't you think this would be fine for Mando? Hey, live in this bustling town. You just got to, keep it safe. Most people are safe. It's a great place to raise Grogu now that he's not going to be with the Jedi and stuff. Why isn't he taking these deals? Like, he really is that addicted to this cult that he's like, well, I would, but I got to do this cult stuff first.
Well, that's the thing that I'm not as tied to. And, maybe we haven't had enough explanation. Maybe we have, and I just haven't absorbed it enough about how much, he was saved by participating in this. But Yeah, I mean, practically, obviously, if he did settle down there, then yes, it would turn into Disney's Deadwood, and so that probably wouldn't be as much fun. But, his whole method here is, he was protecting Grogu, and then he needed to give Grogu to somebody who could help him, and now he's like, all right, well, I'm going to do all sorts of dangerous and crazy stuff just so I can be accepted by these people that I rarely see. And when I see them, I'm saving them without any gratitude from them. I mean, I would make a different calculation than he did.
Okay, so, all right, next story point, next mission we got to set up. Hey, I need a droid I can trust if I'm going to go to this, destroyed planet of Mandalore. There are a million droids, but the only one I trust is currently a destroyed statue. Let's do it. IG-11, half the robot he used to be.
Right, but we can rebuild him. We can make him quicker, stronger, faster. But instead, we will just hotwire him. Now he comes alive.
Oh man,
with
so
his
fun.
Kill Grogu protocol.
Love it.
He's so tough to kill. They're both trying to kill him. Mando tosses Grogu to Greef, and then the other robot knocks Greef's bronze statue onto IG-11, and Greef looks at the robot like a mixture of thanks and couldn't you have found something that wasn't
anything else
representation of me.
How about this? They gave the Mandalorian an Arnold Schwarzenegger line. It really he should have put it on. Right to use your head.
That was really, really funny.
I only went 8 out of 10. And I say only 8 out of 10 is really good. Let's be honest. But they're little things like, I love this IG droid coming back to life and trying to kill him. I love that. And it feels like we could have explored it more. And then suddenly, hey, let's go to something else that's really fun. These little Anzellan droids. Anzellans who fix droids, who are the little Babu Frik character from The Rise of Skywalker. This is peak kid content. My head, at a certain point, I'm enjoying it so much, but I'm like, how in the world did Mando actually fit in that to sit down? Like, literally, he would have had to enter that shop sitting down and then kind of move sideways into it. But it doesn't matter. This is cute stuff. This is Disney printing money. Bad baby. He says it's a bad baby. Yes, Greef, we understand. Come on. Brilliant. Wonderful.
At least Mando was sitting down. I'm thinking of poor Carl Weathers on his hands and his knees looking in. That could not be comfortable. Listen, between the way it's the Anzellans?
Anzellans.
How would you pronounce it? Anzellans. Between the way the Anzellans speak and their little pigeon and Grogu trying to squeeze the crap out of him, this isn't just peak kid content. This is peak catfish content. I found the whole thing adorable, just amazing. And then you add on top of that, Mando says he can't understand it, and so Greef starts translating, and then the creatures are very clear with what they say, and Mando can understand it, but Greef keeps translating, even though it's now clear what they're saying.
I love it.
The only thing here, it's so funny because I gave this a high rating and you gave this a lower rating, and you keep talking about all the things that are great, and I'm talking about the things that confuse me. Okay. We know that Din Djarin has a robot issue. He needs to really go to a robo-psychologist to work this out. But what is so special about IG-11 if they have to replace everything about him? They have to replace his memory. They have to replace his everything. He's no longer IG-11 at this point. I agree with the Anzies. Get a new robot. This makes no sense.
I need one I can trust.
Yeah, but he's no longer going to be that robot. I don't understand.
It doesn't make any sense, but it's another quest, right? Like, okay, we got to do this. We got to get this memory chip.
Sure. I just don't buy it.
I'm not sure I buy it either. But then when I realized what was happening, the one thing about this show is it used to be adventure of the week, right? Like I go to this new planet, I have an adventure on that planet, then I leave and go to the next planet. Here in one episode, we're going to 3 planets. And before that, we get an asteroid battle, which is like a video game. Oh, snap. Hell yeah. Dank Ferret. The pirates are here. I love it.
Love it. Love it.
Now I
They
do
even had one of the guys look just like a s3e stack. You know, these pirates, they're a motley crew of people. It's not just all the same. You know, there's someone, the lead guy says, "Does anyone have eyes on the Mandalorian?" And the s3e stack goes, "Not yet."
So good. Now I do want to point out there's probably almost no way you can tell, listeners, but if you've followed us on podcasts before and we cover Game of Thrones and House of the Dragon with our The Joffrey of podcast, download it on YouTube or on all your favorite podcast platforms. The person playing the Pirate King, Goran Shard, aka Davy Jones from the Pirates movies, it's the actor Nanzo Ozani, who played Zaro Zohan Doxos on Game of Thrones in season 2. He's back. He's always loved. He's always a shady character, just like Zaro was in Game of Thrones. And here he's an alien who's got plants growing on him. We're gonna have to defeat him. It's like he's another quest. Like, okay, I got to find the memory chip. I got to go to the mines of Mandalore. Also, I got to take care of this son of a gun.
It's essentially the Swamp Thing.
Yeah, exactly. Now,
but Mando's like, they get targeted again. You know, not just he gets targeted by the lead pirate. Is like, you killed all my friends, and then he gets targeted by the Swamp Thing. And of course, you know, everybody likes to do a lot of talking. And Mando's advice for Grogu is never trust a pirate. Let's just get the F out.
You know what? No matter what the issue is, I follow that get the F out. You know, like, oh, wait, there's a meeting from work. Sorry, guys, I have another meeting conflicting. Get the F out. Now, let's get to this 3rd planet. And this is a head scratcher. I did not rate the episode, down a bit for this, but here's my head scratcher, Catfish.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Tell me.
Mandalora's glass, as Boba Fett said in season 2 of The Mandalorian. Your home planet has been destroyed. This is terrible. This is horrific. But there's another habitable planet in your star system called Kelvala. Why not just, okay, guys, the Empire destroyed our home planet. Oh, we're scattered to the wind. Or we could all just move as a group to another livable planet in our star system. But what's going on? Why did they scatter to the wind? Why not just say, okay, the Empire's evil. They destroyed that planet. Let's just move 2 planets down. I mean, come on.
I don't understand. I thought I missed something. I'm like, wait, it's not just Mandalore. There's a Mandalore system that has other habitable planets. I'm with you. Guys, let's just move next door.
No, our house was here next to 3 Mile Island. We're never leaving. So Bo-Katan, this is Katee Sackhoff. This is, she had a great run in season 2 of The Mandalorian. Thoughts on her and/or Bo-Katan's attitude of, life sucks. I'm gonna chill here. I'm gonna chill at home.
I mean, I love it. She's just sitting on the throne, super cash. But yeah, basically, she's just like, oh, there you are. You're the one that set my will to live.
I returned home with Moff Gideon's Star Cruiser. Yet, because I didn't have the Darksaber, my force is all split, and I'm
right.
I'm by
she's
myself.
Like, do you still have it? He says, yeah. She's like, good for you. You could be in charge.
Man, she needs. Now, we here at the Parsec Passion podcast, we don't have sponsors. We would love to. But what's that one like self-help line that all podcasts support? Like, hey, you can use this therapist over the phone. Like, she needs somebody, you're talking about Mando getting deep help program.
betterhelp.com. That's right, what she needs. BetterHelp.
I'm saying, come on. And then it just kind of ends. And so this was the real reason why I just knocked this down a bit in my rating is, I loved Andor. I actually was kind of an apologist at times for the Book of Boba Fett. But the one thing by being an episode of the, kind of adventure of the week that The Mandalorian used to be, all of the episodes would end after some sort of resolution. Hey, we did this. Hey, we beat up the bad guys in this planet. Now we're going to go somewhere else. This really did just kind of end. It was Bo-Katan saying, Mando, no help from me. And then a bit like an Andor episode, it just ends. So for me, it's still a bit awkward, but forget all that. I'm glad to be back. Who cares? So that was my thought.
I love it. I love it.
So, hey, we keep talking about what we thought of the episode and what we think. We have, let's get to a little bit of feedback back now. We'll get to some later. On YouTube, somebody by the user handle of Dr. Tar and Professor Feather gave us some feedback on our Andor podcast. And they said, hey, again, another stellar podcast and great show. They said Andor is like 3 different stories: trading stolen tech, heist job, then prison life, and breakout. So, thank you so much for that feedback. We want to hear your thoughts on Mandalorian Season 3. And the episode did just come out, but we have this great feedback from our true friend, Holly, at Hunt Pants on Twitter, who just said, glad to see my adorable space baby, and looking forward to hearing you guys talk about the episode. Thank you so much, Holly. We're glad that you loved this adorable space baby, and I'm pretty sure she doesn't mean Greef.
Oh, man, you sure it's not IG-11?
Oh, man, he's cool. I love all these. This is crazy. I love all these characters. I mentioned in Season 2, I've come around on a classic Pelimoto, who at first I was like, ugh. And now I see Pelimoto, and I'm like, oh, hey, it's Pelly. You know, the show has me in its wheelhouse. That's all it is.
I love it. Now, Bubba.
Yeah.
So we all know we got certain bits on this show that people love. They love these bits. And the first one, we used to call it the Twadorable moment of the show. That was because we used to call Baby Yoda Twoda because he was like a tween.
Yep.
But now he's Grogu, so it's our Gregorable moment of the show. And Bubba, mine is Grogu cuddling up with Mando after seeing the space whales.
That is why we love this show. That relationship, those characters. Me, a different type of cuddling. It's the hugging the Anzellans who didn't want to be hugged. So great. I mean, just so great. This show, you know, I want to be crass and say that this is just Disney making toys that all your kids are going to want. And I'm sure they're going to do that. But at the same time, they have really created a world and a character that makes us love, you know, it's not just a cute puppet. They've made us love this cute puppet. And it just works. It just works. That's all I can say.
I love it. I agree. We also have our Mandalicious line of the episode. Mm-hmm. I've pitched a few.
All right.
The first one is a horned helmet who says, you have removed your helmet. What's worse, you did so of your own free will. I mean, and this is just for zinging somebody twice for the same thing. I mean, this is like saying you lost your wallet. What's worse, you no longer have your driver's license. I mean, it's the same thing.
You ate all of the French fries by yourself, and you did it of your own free will. Okay, that's pretty terrible.
And then, of course, as I said, Mando's line when he's leaned up against the tree and he's like, is there a problem here, magistrate? Oh, very cool, super very cool. Mm-hmm. And then after Mando says, are you sure you want to let Vane go? Greef says, that's cool. Vane will let it be known that Navarro is respectable now and not to be trifled with. Unsaid by Greef was, now let's clean these 5 bodies off this respectable street.
Catfish, your comment may have sold my vote, but there are a couple more. Okay.
Okay, let's hear it. I think these others are yours.
Yeah, Mando's classic Arnold line. Now that's using your head. You know, that's pretty good. But then the one I had to write just because it's so meta in a way. Mando, his name is Grogu. Greef, if you say so. Love it. But you've convinced me with this ridiculousness of this is a respectable city now. All right, clean these dead bodies that got shot in cold blood off the respectable street. Okay, that's fine. Just because of your comment, that's mine.
I love it.
What was your vote?
All right. Yeah, my vote is going to be, is there a problem here, magistrate? Because that's just a verbal warning to these guys. That's it. That's his verbal warning. All right, Bubba, we've got two things we have to do with Greef.
Yeah.
First, we have Greef's beef. What do we not like about the episode? Mine, it's still going to be, my beef is with the crazy cult leader who can't even thank Mando for saving him. She's acting like not only did he take his helmet off, but that he crapped in it and then handed it to her and say, here's your supper. I mean, really just mean. Just mean. I mean, these, a lot, some of these crazy cults, they're like, oh, y'all have to get same tattoo in your private area or whatever like that. It's all about removing your identity. And what's more removing of your identity than you can never take your helmet off in front of anyone else?
My Greef beef is one that I haven't mentioned yet, and this is so unfair because because everybody's doing a great job. But as just a minor thing that affected me is, remember I always used to mock Toro Calican from the Jersey Shore of Tatooine.
Yeah.
The young foundling, his accent was so American and, maybe so Southern California. Now, he didn't really slip into the Californians like, when he's reading the infamous quote of, all right, so you ready? It's like, I swear on my name and the name of my ancestors. I swear on my name and the name of the ancestors. Like, it wasn't that bad. But there was something about that accent that really made me remember that, okay, these are people at a studio in Manhattan Beach just reading lines. So that's unfair to say, but that's all my right. Greef beef. Hey, I want to talk about a good Greef. And this goes back to the aliens. At times, I always talk about this really when we talk about the original trilogy. Those original trilogy movies were loved by the world. Everybody loved them. There was one person who always looked at them and saw flaws. And of course, that person was the creator and director George Lucas, because he wanted certain things, and either he didn't have the budget to do it, especially in the first movie, Star Wars: A New Hope, or he didn't have the effects at the time to do it. And one of the things he didn't always like is he would look at his aliens and say, that's a guy in a mask. That's a guy in a mask. And so that's one of the reasons why the prequels do have so many CGI aliens, because he's like, I want this thing to look completely alien, not like a guy in a mask. But my good Greef is that I think I think these aliens, and especially, this alien vein, even though it's a guy in a mask, I thought it looked really good. So that's my good Greef. Wonderful tip of my cap to the creature creators there at ILM.
My good Greef is they're just, I think it goes along with what you were saying. They're letting the good times roll here. I mean, we got troubles. We got people coming after Mando, but it's just all good fun. The good times are rolling. They have not broken the formula for fun on this show.
Not at all. All right, Catfish, it's time for the Bounty Hunter Guild battle. Who's going to win the puck? And we've got two subjects we're going to talk about, but this first one is a battle that you created, Catfish. And I actually really love this thing we're going to debate. Listeners, we always want to know what you think on these debates. If you're on YouTube, go down on those comments or write, or at PPHQ on social media. So, Catfish, what's the first one?
All right. Well, each season, and smartly, the thing to do is at the beginning of the season, sort of give us an idea of what this season is going to be about. What do we have to accomplish? Even though we're going to do a bunch of side quests, there is one main thing. And I felt like those have been handled very well in the first two seasons of The Mandalorian. So if you go by that we already know what that is, then it has to be Mando being bathed and reborn into this nutso cult. That's going to be the overarching theme for this season, kind of unconnected to Grogu, really. So instead of being about the two of them, it's about him and not Grogu's growth or how important Grogu is going to be. Now, again, we know they're kind of hemmed in that Grogu can't be that important. He's not going to become a part of the movies that come after this. But is that an interesting enough overarching goal for the season to interest us? Is it as compelling as the previous season's goals?
At the end of season 1, the armorer the Horned Helmet cult leader, she gave Mando this mission at the end of season 1. She said, "You've got to return this Grogu to his, wizards and do that." And so all of season 2, that was a great quest. That was a great mission, for lack of a better word. And to me, it really gave the season a great through line. I do agree with you that this whole, you got to get right with your people storyline doesn't pull as much because it's not about their connection, Mando and Grogu, Lone Wolf and Cub, what this show really is. But anytime we kind of break Mando, Din Djarin's, his armor, his outer armor, his emotional armor, like when we see that break, whether it was in that great episode of season 2 where he did take off his mask when he was posing as a stormtrooper, or we did see him say goodbye to Grogu. Anytime he breaks his emotional armor, it does make great, compelling television and episodes. And so while I think you're right with the pitch that this isn't as compelling a mission or goal as previous seasons, I think it can lead to great moments because he is going to have to confront at a certain point, once and for all, am I all in, mask on, and this is it? Or am I going to go to a Bo-Katan type world where I'll wear my mask when it's appropriate, when I'm in danger, when I'm flying in a jetpack? And I want to see that. And I want to see him I want to see him emotionally torn. And I think we will see that. So maybe that's a long-winded way of saying right now it seems not as compelling, but it could get there. That's not a great answer. You tell me. You may win this puck. Let me hear your thoughts.
Well, no, actually, but you know what? You have totally convinced me now, because if you're saying this storyline, this season is going to lead to him realizing that I am right about Helmet Off.
Well, hold on.
I'm completely in on this.
What I'm saying is he's gonna really be facing that once and for all. Like he is right now going hardcore Helmet On. But when you do a mission like this, so you can stay Helmet On, it's going to have to confront him to the Helmet Off theory. And so I'm not saying he'll go Helmet Off. Maybe Pedro Pascal is like, I do only want to film on set 2 days a week, 2 days a season. So who knows?
All right. Well, I'm gonna. It's not even. I'm giving the puck to you. Helmet Off. I love it.
Listeners,
let's
what do you
make
think?
this season a debate about the debate we have been having for 2 years. I'm all in on that.
Now, earlier, a couple of weeks before this first premiere episode was released on season 3, the website AV Club released an article, which I think is an honest article to have, and the thought process was behind it was Andor's greatness could make it tougher to love other Star Wars shows like The Mandalorian. And this is an article they put out saying that Andor, which was great, which was very more mature storytelling and aimed at a slightly more mature audience than The Mandalorian, because it was so great, is it going to be difficult or tougher to love, as they say in their article, to love other shows like The Mandalorian, where it is very much all ages and certain sections really are aimed at kids. And so we had a loyal listener, a wonderful listener we love, Laura McMillian at Mesocat on Twitter, who said, though both are set in the Star Wars universe, I think Andor and The Mandalorian are different genres and really can't be compared one for one. It's like comparing The Last of Us to The Mandalorian, since they both have Pedro Pascal taking care of a young child. Let me say, Laura, you're exactly right. But the premise of the article is that, hey, Andor is so great, could it make it these shows tougher to love? What do you think, Kefish? You agree? Disagree? What do you think?
I mean, I think we both loved Andor, and we are both excited and pleased and not disappointed at all with this first episode of season 3. I think it's partly what Laura says, is that they're different genres. I also think they're both great at the genre they're in. I mean, for someone who's not and again, there could be other people who are not as into the Star Wars universe who feel different, but I feel like more objectively, the other Star Wars things we've seen have been more fan servicey and just not as well thought out. I for both, and I know some people love the Obi-Wan series. That's probably my least favorite series. Boba Fett only really became compelling when the Mandalorian joined in on it for lots of reasons. They did the two storylines that didn't feed into each other.
Yeah, that was the tough part of that for me. Yeah.
So I just feel like it does help for them to be different genres. For sure, it helps them to be different genres. This is a fun Western, cute. It's still kind of adult. I know there are a lot of people who also like the Clone Wars, the cartoons and stuff like that. I think if you can make it different enough and just have it be good. My problem with Boba Fett and Obi-Wan was I just didn't think they were that interesting.
I was the other way on that, but I may get myself into trouble here because I haven't watched every Marvel show, but Marvel movies and the Marvel TV shows to me haven't had as wide a range as you watch Andor and you watch The Mandalorian. I'm with you, Catfish. I think they're both great. They're really good. But to me, that seems like a really wide range of their intended audiences, of what they're trying to get across. Forget genre, just how their approach to the material. It seems really wide, and I think that's great. Where even these Marvel shows, where okay, this one's kind of more of a comedy, maybe She-Hulk versus okay, this one's more of a debate about who gets to be Captain America, like Falcon and Winter Soldier was. To me, I think Star Wars has just done it better, at least in that example of, okay, you want to go wide with, okay, this show is for this audience, this show is for that audience. I think it's been wonderful, and I don't think in any way Andor's greatness made it tougher to love another show. It made it, it just showed that once again, it's easy to love great shows and easier to criticize shows that are either just good or just okay or have moments of greatness and not great throughout. So
I think it is good to do something different, though. For example, I was fascinated by the Scarlet Witch show because it started off so different. Now, what it became was the same old huge CGI battle. Yeah. But at least it started off doing something that was really, really fascinating and cool.
Well, I thought the beginning of Moon Knight. I thought the beginning of Moon Knight started so strong, and then I don't know. Once again, I'm not the Marvel expert.
You're not pro hippo.
I do like hippos in a lot of ways, especially when they're Triple H hungry hippos. Hey, listeners, these are just some of our thoughts on these topics. You know how to respond to us because we care about your thoughts. Enough of our silly talk, and there's somebody who you like to call quintuple M, Catfish.
Yeah, quintuple M. I'm not going to spoil it because he is going to bring it up himself. I don't want to ruin his parade. So without further ado, let's go to quintuple M.
Hello to the double L's. That's loyal listeners of the quintuple M. Quintuple, you say? That is Matt Murdock's Mandalorian musical analysis. Catfish probably already said that, but that's okay. I'll say it again. So, I know there's been a lot of discussion about whether the Mandalorian now holds up in the Star Wars universe as compared to shows like Andor and what have you. Pretty sure that Bubba and Catfish will have talked about this even. However, my question for this season is, can Joe Shirley live up to the standard that Ludwig has originally composed this show for? We saw him take over in Book of Boba Fett. He did a really good job there, even though that's not one of the favorite Star Wars shows that people have. Joseph Shirley's score was still very consistent, very good. So far, I have no complaints as far as this episode of The Mandalorian goes. We're still using Ludwig's themes. Don't worry, the musical landscape hasn't changed that much, but a little bit has. And one of the approaches that Joseph Shirley is using that I really love is he's using these themes that Ludwig has created, and he's placing the emotional context harmonically in interesting ways, not unlike the way that Williams did it, perhaps more like the way that Williams did it than Ludwig ever did for this series. There were many instances in this episode where the main theme was used, but it was kind of cleverly disguised, and it fit the emotional tension or the emotional context of everything that it was applied for. Let's just listen to that first phrase of the main melody, this. We hear that melody phrase near the very beginning when, I'm going to call it Super Gator, is about to eat the guy after he's knocked the kid out of the way, and we see Mando's ship fly overhead. Now that melody is present, but it gets tweaked a little bit, and different harmonic context is given. Harmony is the notes that support that melody, and that's what actually makes us feel different emotions when we hear it. So instead of being centered in that key that you just heard me play that in, he uses this as the bass note. That's called a dominant. It's the fifth step of the key, and it always wants to resolve back to the home key. It feels like when you just hear that note by itself, after you heard the melody I played, when you just hear that note that I just played, you want it to resolve to this note. Badly. Okay, maybe in your mind you're not consciously thinking that, but something in your subconscious is telling you, hey, let's get this home. Let's get back to that note. But that's not what Joe Shirley does in this particular instance. Instead, he uses that pedal tone to create tension, not for Mando, or maybe a little bit for Mando. Maybe he's saying, will Mando actually help these people? But the tension is more about the guy who's about to get eaten by Super Gator. And so, as we see Mando fly overhead, we get the first part, and then as the chord changes, we see Mando turning back to help. But we don't get the one chord until the very end, and that helps keep everything tense. So it ends up sounding like this. One of the other things that's really neat about that is the way that he superimposed the melody. It's like he played the melody fragment twice each time. And what that does is it creates this kind of call and response. The call is for help. The response is coming from Mando. Or you can think of it as a double layering to help increase the tension. Melody, melody, melody. It's supposed to go home to the home key. But instead it hangs on this. That's what helps create a subliminal tension in your mind regarding the scene. You're fist pumping, of course, because Mando has returned to save the day. But you're also just feeling just a little bit tense. And the next scene plays that out as we find out that he's still not accepted, even after saving everybody from Super Gator. Let's turn to another instance of the melody being used quite cleverly. One of the times was during the asteroid chase. I love a good asteroid chase, always have since Empire Strikes Back. But we hear all kinds of statements of Mando's melody in there. I want to concentrate on this one. And it's right when things seem to be the most tense as Mando ducks underneath one of the asteroids and then everybody can't see him. But we hear this part of the melody as we know it. But it's the way that Joseph Shirley harmonizes that creates tension. Because at that moment, you don't know if Mando's going to get out of there or not. He's kind of tucked in under that asteroid, and it looks like he might be surrounded. So it's a great place to add this kind of harmony, where you add an extra note to it. And then once again, we're going to the 5 chord to create tension, like this. It's just one small instance in that entire sequence where the melody of the main theme is used really well. Another thing that helps add to the tension of that scene, rhythmically, when you divide a beat up where we're usually counting into many, many little parts and the notes move really fast, that raises our heart rate because there's more motion going into your ears. Your brain's having to work faster. Everything's having to work faster. Your heart moves faster. So simply by including this first in the strings and then in the synth, even though it's not real high up in the mix, you still feel that tension happening. So those are some of the wonderful ways that Joe Shirley has used the main theme in this particular episode. But he also introduced a really fun theme in this particular episode as well. And I can't tell you if it's one of Ludwig's or not. It doesn't sound like it was one of Ludwig's. I don't recall hearing it before, but it was really nicely done when Mando and Grogu are strolling through Navarro. And what makes this one really fun is because we're seeing the scenes kind of through Grogu's perspective, the way he's looking at things, the focus is on him a little bit before they get to the statue. And it's the meter, the way that we count the measures, that makes this one fun, because the meter is actually beats of 6 and beats of 5, a total of 11. But what the 6 does is, because it's a multiple of 3, we love circular time to depict happiness and wonder. But you throw in a measure of 5 and everything gets off just a little bit. So why would Joe do this? He wants you to see that the kid is taking it in and wonder, but maybe he's not getting the whole picture. Gets excited and skips a beat because he likes it all. But at any rate, it sounds like this. Unlike everything else that we've talked about in this particular section, this melody is placed in a major key. It's happy, or it's lighter. Minor keys tend to be darker. And we saw it's a pretty dark situation when you're being chased through an asteroid field. It's a pretty dark situation when Super Gator is about to eat you. That's all I've got. I've rambled way too much, I know. Back to Bubba and Catfish.
Oh, wow. As always, bring in the heat. Quintuple. God, I always want to say quadruple, but I need quintuple.
Not on this one. He's quintuple here. Yes.
Catfish, any thoughts on our good buddy Double M?
I mean, Double M's always bringing it. I love when he plays his little harpsichord.
Oh, so do I. Listeners, you can find him at Musical Concepts on Twitter, and he hosts a bunch of great podcasts here at WPHQ and a bunch of great podcasts elsewhere. So be sure to follow him at Musical Concepts on Twitter and the other social media handles. He is great. All right, Catfish, let's get to it. We're going to end this episode the way we end every Parsec Passion podcast, and that's how I don't remember how we ended. But
yeah,
how about this? There is a good chance that Pedro Pascal was filming The Last of Us concurrently. I mean, actually not concurrently, while everybody else was working on The Mandalorian Season 3. Let's have a bet. How many episodes, if any, will we see that lovely Pedro Pascal face? And when?
Ooh.
When?
Well, if we're going to see his face again, it's only under the circumstances you describe. And that is when he makes a big decision. So that would have to be episode 8, episode 9. Sorry, episode 6 or 7.
Catfish, I'm going with your original answer. I think it's episode 8. Listeners, what do you think? Are we going to see more than one episode of Pedro Pascal's face? In season 2, we got a whopping 2 episodes with his face. We shall see. Once again, you can find us on social media at WPHQ. That's the word double, the single letter P for podcast, HQ for headquarters, at WPHQ on Twitter, Instagram, and Hive, Facebook.com/WPHQ, and YouTube. Go down in the comments and tell us what you think. For everybody here at the Parsec Passion Podcast, my name's Bubba. You can find me on Twitter at FittenTrim, FITTENTRIM, at FittenTrim on Twitter.
And my name is Catfish. You can hit me up at CJGman67 on Twitter. And we will talk to you next week on
Quintuple M.
No, Parsec Passion.
If they're bringing back IG-11, they can bring back the client. We'll never give that up.
So delicious.